On a quiet December morning in Toronto, two lifeless bodies were discovered by the poolside of a billionaire's mansion. Barry and Honey Sherman were known for their wealth, philanthropy, and deep roots in Canada's pharmaceutical world. But their tragic end sparked a mystery that remains unsolved. Years later, one tangled in legal battles, family feuds, and unsettling clues that only deepen the enigma. What really happened behind those closed doors? And who had the motive to stage such a chilling scene? Let's uncover the story behind one of Canada's most perplexing double murders. The murder of Honey and Barry Sherman remains one of the most baffling crimes in Canadian history. On a cold December morning, billionaire businessman Barry Sherman and his wife Honey were found dead in their Toronto mansion, hanging from a railing near their indoor pool. The shocking discovery sparked an investigation full of unexpected twists and turns. Barry Sherman was born in 1942 in Toronto, Canada. His father ran a small business but died of heart failure when Barry was just 10 years old. From a young age, Barry displayed exceptional intelligence, setting him apart from his peers. In the early 1960s, he studied engineering at the University of Toronto. During the summers, he worked part-time as a truck driver delivering pharmaceuticals for Empire Company, which was owned by his uncle Louis Winter. Barry later earned his BA and PhD in astrophysics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1967. In his unfinished autobiography, Barry wrote that these early years were crucial in shaping his future. In 1965, his uncle Louis and Louis's wife Beverly died within just 17 days of each other. Louis had struggled with psychosis, and Beverly had been battling leukemia. They left behind 4 young sons. While Barry initially visited his cousins from time to time, he eventually lost contact with them. At just 22 years old, Barry boldly told a real estate manager that he wanted to take over Empire Company. He offered $3,000 and a car, demanding a response within 24 hours, or he would withdraw the offer. The trustee rejected his proposal, but Barry was undeterred. 2 years after graduating, he made another attempt, this time proposing a formal partnership with an offer of $450,000. The trustee was open to selling, but wanted to ensure that Louis's 4 sons would be protected in the deal. Barry, however, was only willing to sign a written agreement that allowed his cousins to work at Empire when they turned 21 and buy up to a 5% stake at age 23 only if he still owned the company. If he sold it, the agreement would be void. Despite concerns, the deal went through and protections for the boys were not included in the final agreement. Barry eventually sold Empire for nearly $2 million. With this experience, he launched his own pharmaceutical company, Tex, founded in 1974. Tex was a conglomerate aiming to compete with giants like Pfizer and Bayer. The company focused on generic drugs, replicas of branded medications. Barry positioned himself as a champion for consumers, often suing major pharmaceutical companies in an effort to make medications more affordable for patients. Barry married Honey in 1971. The couple met the year before, while Honey was volunteering at a local hospital deeply involved in Toronto's Jewish community. She spent her time fundraising and supporting charities. Honey was born in an Austrian displaced persons camp. Her parents were Holocaust survivors, which fueled her passion for helping others. Years later, Barry reconnected with his long-lost cousins after learning they had struggled with drug addiction in their youth. 16 years after losing contact, Barry re-entered their lives, offering them a car, a house, and financial support. However, Honey was not pleased. She frequently questioned Barry about their requests and how much money he gave them. This tension led to a heated argument with Carrie Winter, one of the cousins, prompting him to cut ties with the Shermans again. Carrie began to question Barry's generosity. Was there a hidden motive? One day, Carrie confronted Barry, directly asking how he had acquired their father's business. Barry dodged the question, undeterred. Carrie searched through family documents and uncovered an agreement that stunned him. He became convinced that Barry had misled their family. Barry had never revealed the details of this deal to him or his brothers. Carrie later called Barry to confront him about the discovery. Barry confirmed that Carrie's suspicions were true. This revelation caused a permanent rift between them, a tension that lingered until Barry's tragic end. Barry was actively involved in charity work alongside his wife, Honey. Together they donated over $50 million, including significant contributions to the Jewish community. Toronto hospitals and supplies for disaster-affected areas. His company employed approximately 11,000 people and operated in over 100 countries worldwide. The couple had 4 adult children and several grandchildren. In 2017, they decided to sell their 100 square meter mansion for nearly $7 million Canadian dollars. They planned to build their dream home closer to downtown Toronto, but those plans would never materialize. At 8:30 a.m. on December 15, 2017, a cleaning crew arrived at the Shermans' home to prepare it for sale. Around 10 a.m., 2 real estate agents arrived with potential buyers to view the property. After inspecting the main floors, they made their way to the basement where the indoor swimming pool was located. One agent entered the pool area first and found the lifeless bodies of Barry, 75, and Honey, 70. In shock, she quickly asked the buyers to leave, saying the owner was supposed to be doing yoga. Before taking the clients upstairs, the agent asked the maid to check the basement. The maid went down, approached the couple, and found them cold to the touch. She returned a few minutes later and reported what she had seen. The employee then ended the tour, went downstairs to confirm what the maid had told her, and called the police. When paramedics arrived, they confirmed that Barry and Honey were dead and had been for approximately 36 hours. Barry was found seated on the right side, his legs crossed and his glasses still neatly in place. He had some neck injuries, but no other visible wounds. Honey had a bruise on her face and was located near the garage door. On the other side of the garage, there was a bottle of vodka, which the couple often kept there, and a window had been opened about 15 centimeters for ventilation because the room had recently been painted. Both victims had leather belts tightly wrapped around their necks, attached to stainless steel pool railings roughly a meter above the floor. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. Initially, police considered the possibility of a murder-suicide, but the theory didn't add up. The Shermans were wealthy, had a thriving business, and appeared deeply in love. A family member mentioned that Barry had recently complained about being tired, blaming it on long hours and poor nutrition, but he had never shown signs of depression. Honey, who had recently undergone treatment for throat cancer and suffered from severe arthritis, remained cheerful, sociable, and optimistic despite her health struggles. There was no indication she had any intent to end her life. A closer examination of the crime scene led investigators to consider the possibility that Barry had killed Honey before taking his own life. Injuries to her face helped identify Honey. Both victims had marks on their wrists, suggesting they had been bound. Autopsies revealed no traces of drugs or alcohol that might have contributed to their deaths. In Barry's basement was a sculpture made entirely from trash. The artist had intentionally used discarded materials to create two human figures. After the murders, some speculated that the killer might have been inspired by this sculpture, as the bodies were posed in a similar way. The day after the discovery, unnamed police sources told the media that Barry had strangled Honey before taking his own life. This theory was never verified and was quickly dismissed by family members who insisted it was untrue, citing the deep bond between Barry and Honey. Within 72 hours of the incident, the couple's 4 adult children hired prominent criminal defense lawyer Brian Greenspan. He assembled a private investigative team, including detectives and a forensic expert, who performed a second autopsy. Their conclusion: Barry and Honey Sherman were murdered. The couple had died just days before they were scheduled to leave for a vacation at their home in Palm Beach, Florida. Honey had carefully planned a 4-week getaway set to begin on December 18th. Barry was meant to join Honey a week later on December 25th. Unlike Honey, he wasn't in a rush. Work always took priority over a vacation in Florida. When examining the couple's position at the time of death, they were found sitting on the floor with their backs to the pool and their jackets pulled back. The arrangement of the glasses on the bar appeared to have been deliberately adjusted, raising questions, as did Barry's crossed legs. These details suggested that someone may have assisted or staged the scene. In response, Barry's family released a statement urging the police to conduct a thorough and impartial investigation into the deaths and called on the media to refrain from speculation. At the time, Toronto police were also focused on tracking down an active serial killer, Bruce McArthur, which diverted critical resources and attention from the Shermans' case. Consequently, their investigation was not treated as a top priority. The couple's autopsies were performed by a rookie forensic pathologist with no experience handling such a complex case, and the results were inconclusive. However, after McArthur was apprehended, investigators turned their focus back to the Sherman case and interviewed around 240 individuals. With such a broad scope, there was initial hope for a swift resolution, but that hope faded over time. The final known events leading up to the murders were particularly telling. On December 12, 2017, Honey was absent from a charity board meeting, something highly unusual for her. The next day, December 13th, Barry and Honey were seen together at Apotex headquarters discussing their plans for a new home. Barry, who often worked late into the night due to his insomnia, made no phone calls that evening, again, highly unusual behavior. Barry was scheduled to be at Apotex on December 14th, but he never showed up and failed to notify anyone, which was entirely out of character. Toronto police, criticized by the Sherman family for their handling of the case, have refused to comment publicly because there were no signs of forced entry or evidence of intruders. Theories began to emerge that someone close to the couple might have been involved. An independent investigation eventually identified Barry's cousins as potential suspects. They were reportedly angry over past grievances, believing Barry had lied to them and left them financially deprived. For over a decade, they had been embroiled in a lawsuit against Barry seeking a share of his pharmaceutical fortune. Their argument was that Barry's company, Apotex, had been built on the foundation of their father's company empire, and they felt entitled to a portion of the profits. Barry denied all accusations and fought the lawsuit fiercely, even demanding that his cousins return the millions he had already given them over the years. Though he had supported them financially in the 1980s, their legal dispute escalated. On September 15, 2017, just 3 months before the couple's deaths, an Ontario judge ruled in Barry's favor, calling the cousins' claims unrealistic and overly ambitious. Then, on December 6th, just a week before Barry was last seen alive, the court ordered his cousins to pay $300,000 in legal fees. Barry was dissatisfied with the amount, as he had requested nearly $1 million. He immediately instructed his lawyers to appeal the ruling. That appeal was filed the day after Barry's funeral. Due to the ongoing legal battle and personal tension, suspicion naturally fell on the cousins. One of them, Kerry Winter, even publicly admitted in an interview that he had fantasized about ambushing Barry at work and physically harming him. Kerry said he wasn't surprised by what had happened. In fact, he believed Barry had killed Honey and then taken his own life. In several interviews, Kerry also claimed that years earlier, Barry had once asked him to kill Honey. According to Kerry, Barry had said he hated her and wanted her gone. Kerry allegedly responded, "Are you serious, Barry?" To which Barry replied, "Yes." Kerry said he refused, but mentioned that he might know people who could do it. However, Barry later changed his mind and withdrew the request. Barry's family strongly denied Kerry's story, calling it completely false. They insisted that Barry deeply loved Honey and would never consider harming her. Kerry claimed he had nothing to do with the murder. He openly admitted to feeling deep contempt and hatred toward Barry, saying that Barry had hurt him and disrespected his father. Kerry had every reason to dislike Barry, but he insisted that he played no role in his death. On the day of the murder, Kerry stated he had been at work all day. That evening, he attended a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, returned home, watched a movie, had dinner, and went to bed. The next morning, he went to work as usual. However, since he lived alone, there was no one to verify his alibi. 3 years later, in November 2020, police announced they had identified a suspect. But just 2 days later, they revised their statement saying there might be multiple suspects. Since then, no further clarification has been provided. In December 2021, police released surveillance footage taken near Barry and Honey's home. The video showed a person wearing dark clothing walking along the sidewalk close to the residence. Investigators noted that the person had an unusual gait, possibly due to walking in the snow. The timing of the footage coincided with the suspected time of the murders. However, the individual's face and identifying features were not visible, and the person was never identified. The only detail that could be determined was the suspect's estimated height, between 170 and 180 cm. Police hoped that by releasing the footage someone might recognize the individual, but no one came forward. According to investigators, Honey arrived home in her Lexus at around 8:30 p.m. on December 13th. She parked as usual and entered the house through the laundry room door connected to the kitchen. It is believed that the intruders entered the house shortly after Honey, then went into the bathroom, where she was either attacked or fled after the attack began. Her phone was later found in the bathroom by a maid. Honey was beaten and strangled on the main floor before her body was moved to the basement. An independent medical examiner concluded that the injuries to her face were consistent with being dragged down the stairs to the pool, though it was unclear which of the home's 2 staircases had been used. One theory suggests that the attacker may have first encountered Honey outside the home and used her keys to gain entry. This would explain the absence of forced entry. Another possibility is that the intruder entered through an unlocked door or an open window. Barry left Apotex around 8:30 p.m. in his Mustang. Upon arriving home, he parked in the garage, which had access to the house via 2 doors. It is believed he used the door near the staircase where he may have been ambushed. This would explain why his gloves and documents were found in the garage. The killers placed the bodies by the basement pool, wrapped belts around their necks, draped jackets over their shoulders, and arranged glasses on the bar to stage the scene as a murder-suicide. The belts were later confirmed to have been taken from inside the home, suggesting the killers intended to mislead investigators into believing Barry was responsible. The investigation also revealed that while Barry tightly controlled his wife's spending, he was generous with his children. Despite his reluctance to spend money on himself or Honey, he was willing to give millions to their children. Honey, on the other hand, had the means to travel and shop freely. She could easily spend money on home repairs and other necessities. However, both she and Barry preferred to live modestly before her death. Honey had mentioned to relatives that Barry was planning to buy her an expensive gift, though she wasn't sure what it would be. Despite their wealth, the Shermans lived simply. Barry preferred driving regular cars. He owned a Mustang, and the couple never had the kind of luxury vehicles typical of billionaires. On Barry's 50th birthday, Honey gifted him a sports car in front of family, but he was upset and asked her to return it. Saying he disliked extravagance, the Shermans didn't flaunt their wealth. Their home was considered modest by billionaire standards, and they were careful with their finances. They often flew economy class. Honey enjoyed a few luxuries typical of an upper-middle-class lifestyle, such as elegant jewelry, her Lexus SUV, and occasional shopping trips to New York. In November 2016, Honey purchased a valuable piece of land in the upscale Forest Hill neighborhood, which was registered in her name. The couple planned to demolish the existing house and build a new one. The plans included a large brick-and-stone residence with an elevator and the outdoor pool that Barry had promised her, complete with a retractable skylight and a separate pool area. The building plans were approved on June 28, just under 6 months before the murders. Barry, however, wasn't particularly interested in moving. He was content with their current home, but agreed to the move out of consideration for Honey's wishes. On November 27, 2017, just 2 weeks before the tragedy, their home was listed for sale and described as a modern architectural masterpiece. It's unclear why the Sherman family chose to sell their home before construction on the new house had even begun. In the final weeks of her life, Honey was busy with her charity work, while also overseeing the home project. In late November, she was awarded the Senate 150th Anniversary Medal for volunteer service by her close friend, Senator Frum. She was recognized as one of the most outstanding charity workers and fundraisers in Toronto. Throughout their 46-year marriage, Barry supported Honey. The couple represented a striking contrast. Honey was outgoing, warm, and social, while Barry was reserved and introverted, often uninterested in small talk. Although Honey didn't have a formal job, she served as a highly effective ambassador for Apotex. She had a natural talent for building relationships with influential individuals, using her charm and passion for helping others. In their final days, friends and family said Barry and Honey appeared happy and in good spirits, showing no signs of danger or distress. Barry was known for his aggressive legal strategies. Over the course of his career, he filed approximately 200 lawsuits, including 83 against Health Canada, using litigation as a powerful tool. His significant donations to various foundations earned him political support, and he became known as Canada's most active defendant. Those close to him believed his love for litigation stemmed not from greed, but from a need for validation and an unrelenting desire to win. Another theory surrounding the couple's deaths involves Barry's questionable business dealings. He was known to be secretive and reportedly owed close to $1 billion to various companies, with no intention of repaying them. His investments outside of Apotex were large and erratic, including a failed casino project, a money-losing gold mine, a bankrupt jewelry venture, and even an investment in a non-existent yacht. He also funded B-movies featuring gangsters and vampires, and collaborated with individuals who were later convicted of fraud. While many admired Barry for his generosity and intelligence, others described him as ruthless and lacking in redeeming qualities. Given his complex and controversial character, there were many who may have had motives to harm him. Some speculated that business partners at Apotex were involved, possibly due to internal disputes. However, no solid evidence has been presented. In early 2017, Barry faced professional setbacks. In January, Apotex sued a former employee, accusing him of stealing drug formulas to launch a competing pharmaceutical company in Pakistan. A few months later, a top Apotex executive was accused of espionage by a major competitor, an Israeli company, suggesting that a former female employee had leaked sensitive information to her boyfriend at Apotex. Despite these challenges, Barry remained focused on his work. In the weeks leading up to his death, he was as committed as ever, constantly calculating, planning, and even discussing business while on vacation. He suffered from insomnia and rarely rested. Barry was a man of instinct, always willing to take risks. Well known in his community, many people sought him out for financial help. Police now believe that Barry's murder may have been tied to his personality and lifestyle. He was known for making enemies and had a reputation for being quick to file lawsuits against anyone who crossed him. Investigators suspect that the killer was likely an unknown individual who either visited Barry at home or was hired as a hitman. Honey was likely not the intended target. She may have become an accidental victim simply because she was present when the attack occurred. After the murder, the unidentified perpetrator remained in the house with the bodies for an extended period, suggesting familiarity with the family's daily routine and confidence that he would not be disturbed. He meticulously cleaned up any evidence of his presence and arranged the bodies to resemble the unusual garbage sculpture found in the home. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attended the funeral of the Sherman couple and posthumously awarded Barry one of the nation's highest civilian honors. Approximately 6,500 people attended the ceremony. An independent investigation team led by a lawyer and supported by the victims' families offered a $35 million reward for information leading to the arrest of the perpetrator. However, this effort proved unsuccessful. The lawyers discovered that police had failed to thoroughly examine the crime scene. For example, jewelry found on the driveway, items that did not belong to the victims, was overlooked by police. Other crucial evidence may also have been missed or lost over time. Real estate staff, potential buyers, and cleaning crews who entered the house may have unknowingly destroyed important evidence. The police received a total of 343 tips from the legal team, but none led to the identification of the criminal. The last tip was submitted on July 2, 2019. After that, the legal team ceased providing updates for over a year, possibly due to a lack of new leads. In February 2019, the murdered couple's home was returned to their family. The couple's children filed a petition to demolish the property, stating that it was too painful to see the house in its current condition and that no one would want to purchase it. As a result, the house was demolished. The family then aimed to clean up the area, fill in the pool, and put the land up for sale. It is unclear whether it has been sold. Barry had received numerous death threats, including from competitors. Despite this, he had no personal protection. Each evening, he would leave his office and enter his car alone, making him vulnerable to an attack. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Only 2 investigators continue to work on it, exploring a wide range of potential suspects, including individuals involved in related lawsuits. They are also reviewing the company's financial records and charity documents. Some believe that powerful individuals may be involved, casting doubt on whether the case will ever be solved.